The FA Cup final is here. The Premier League season is coming to a close. Football has another scandal, and across Europe, multiple leagues prepare for the final day, with relegation and titles still to be decided. This weekend is massive. Starting off with the FA Cup final, which is taking place on Saturday, with Chelsea facing Man City at Wembley. City come into the FA Cup final having lost their last two, to Palace and to Man United. So they'll be looking to rectify that. Chelsea have lost their last six finals at Wembley in the FA Cup and in the Carabao Cup. So it doesn't seem to be a great ground for them. But in the semi-final against Leeds, they were in shocking form before that, but they turned up against Leeds and got the job done. A 1-0 win by, I think it was Enzo Fernandez, got the goal. It's an interesting game because, it's Pep against Callum McFarlane, who has, taken temporary reins of Chelsea, with Chelsea having sacked Rosenior. So they actually played each other twice this season in the league, and in the first game between them, they actually drew 1-1 when Callum McFarlane was in charge of that game. They were only just after sacking Maresca, and he managed to get a point in that game. Again, Enzo Fernandez getting a last minute goal. They faced each other in the league recently enough, with City coming out victorious, 3-0 winners at Stamford Bridge. But that first half was quite an open game. It turned out to be quite straightforward in that second half, the result. But I really think this one kind of comes down like a lot to the fitness of Rodri. He's just such a massive player. You've seen it in the game against Everton there last week. Like, the midfield is just wide open when he's not there. City get caught in the transition so much. So I definitely think that's a big factor. Like, I'll be looking out for the team news on that one before the game kicks off. Because I think that really does impact Chelsea's chances in this one. There's a lot of talk about, like, with City, that they could be losing a lot of players and even their manager and Pep Guardiola. We already know that Stones and Bernardo Silva, it's their last season this year. I think Ake as well, but there's a lot of talk that Pep Guardiola is going to be stepping down. And if that is the case, like, I don't think there's not even really a team talk needed, is there? For that final, because they'll want to end it on a high. I mean, yeah, City, their league chances are, they're not that high at the moment. They're still going to probably push Arsenal all the way, but like, they could finish, this Pep tenure with a domestic double, like, which isn't to be frowned upon. Um, and like, do they really want to go out with Pep Guardiola just winning the Carabao Cup as in his last season? I don't know. Like, that is, if it is his last season, that is a big if as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of unrest at Chelsea at the moment, with they're looking at the future and, like, where are they actually going, because they seem to be buying a lot of young players and kind of on these long contracts and maybe looking to sell them on down the line. There doesn't seem to be this kind of, like, plan for the future in terms of, like, challenging for leagues, challenging for Champions Leagues. But then, like, with Chelsea, they, throughout my lifetime knowing Chelsea under Abramovich and now under Bluco, like, they do collect trophies. I mentioned there that they lost all those finals, but, like, recently enough, they won the Club World Cup, they won the Conference League. I know they were expected to win it. Like, it was kind of maybe they shouldn't have even been in it in the first place, in terms of their standards dropping. But I think they do collect trophies. Like, there's no denying that. And I think they'll be, they were fully motivated against Leeds. I think they'll be fully motivated against City at the weekend. They've come across this new five at the back formation that Callum's kind of introduced, with Cucurella as the wing back, and I think Gusto as the right wing back. And you're seeing, like, Cole Palmer is getting, like, that free roll up top with Joe Pedro. Um, their midfield is quite strong on paper. Like, when you look at it, like Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and say Palmer or Reece James, if he plays in there, I don't know. But bearing in mind, I think this system has probably had to come because, their wingers haven't been performing this season. Neto, Gittins, Garnacho, Estevo, they've all been in and out of the side again through injury, through fitness, through loss of form. If they are going to win the final, like, you're looking at Joe Pedro and you're looking at Cole Palmer to step up, like, I think Joe Pedro, out of all of the Chelsea forwards this season, has been, the main guy. He's always looked threatening. Cole Palmer's had a bit of a dip this season, but, like, could he turn around in the final against his old club and, just show him what he still is capable of. It's not like he's a bad player, like, suddenly. He's just in bad form. I think the Rodri, whether or not he plays or not, I think is a huge impact on this game. And I think if he does play, I think City, I fancy City to go on and win. But if he's not playing, I don't think it's straightforward. And I think Chelsea could force extra time if Rodri isn't playing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Switching into the Premier League, like, I'm going to park the title race talk for now because obviously Arsenal and Man City, they don't play in the league again until Monday and Tuesday. So the relegation battle is where it's at. And, I think I did call it against Leeds on Monday night. I do think Spurs will stay up. But I did call a draw on that one. But there was a huge call at the end that has given West Ham life in the relegation battle. James Maddison not getting the penalty right at the death. I've seen it back so many times, like, and it's like Maddison's come out afterwards saying that, that he got the last touch on the ball. At the time, the referees deemed that the guy Nemecha, that he got the final touch on the ball, and it's like, you're talking like milliseconds here, and like the camera angles that were on show that I seen, like, I can't definitively say who gets the last touch on the ball, but it's given West Ham life, and like they go to St James's Park on Sunday. It's Newcastle's final home game of the season. I mean, like, West Ham, like, it looks like they were down and out there after losing to Brentford and then losing to Arsenal. But, like, they've got this game now. Like, if they could somehow get the win against Newcastle, it's unlikely, but if they could, I mean, Newcastle, they've had a fairly poor season this year. It's not beyond the realms of possibility of West Ham going there and getting the 3 points. If they somehow did, the pressure goes back onto Tottenham. They'd go a point above Tottenham with Spurs having to play Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Suddenly Chelsea, off the back of an FA Cup final, whether they win or whether they lose, if they can have a part in relegating Tottenham, like, they will want to do it. So this West Ham game, like, is massive. Like, it changes everything. Moving on then for the race for sixth, that I keep banging on this drum about, like, there's a possible race for sixth. It's not confirmed. And even now, like, looking at the fixtures, Villa play Liverpool tonight. And, like, if Villa were to win, then they go above Liverpool into fourth, which would ruin sixth getting Champions League spot. So, like, this fixture is really key because, like, obviously if Villa were to draw, they'd stay in fifth, but then Bournemouth still have a chance of catching Villa in fifth. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, Villa could potentially actually finish sixth. Now, they will have a chance in the Europa League to get Champions League qualification through that route because they play the final against Freiburg, but it's not dead set yet on them actually finishing in the top five. Even Brighton could still catch them. Like, if Villa were to lose to Liverpool tonight and lose to City on the final day, Brighton win their 2 games, suddenly Brighton could finish above Villa, like, never mind Bournemouth. I had to just touch then on the Championship playoffs. Like, they seem to be in the spotlight now at the moment for a lot of the wrong reasons. For people that don't know, this whole Spygate saga has gone on between Middlesbrough and Southampton before they played each other in the first leg of their semi-final playoff. Middlesbrough, complained to the league saying that Southampton had spied on them, and there was a picture since come out of the guy, like, with a camera standing near a tree, taking pictures, maybe videos of the Southampton players training. this is just like complete bonkers, and like I remember a similar incident happened in the championship going back a few years ago when Bielsa's Leeds were in the spotlight then, and like Bielsa came out and saying that, like, I spy on every single team, and it's such a big thing now in the game, I'd say, trying to keep everything in house, trying to keep it secret. And it could be like the CIA and Russian spies there. Like, you could have people in your camp that you think are for you, but really they're working for another club and leaking information. Like, it's completely wild, the lengths that clubs will go to just to try and gain an advantage. They definitely need to crank down on this and introduce some regulation or some rules that, like, if you are caught of doing this, then you're going to get thrown out. Like, a lot of people would probably argue they should be thrown out anyway, but like, surely, like, rules should be in place now, especially with that Leeds and Derby incident before. Like, that they should have set a precedent then that, like, if you get caught doing it, in the future, that you're just completely thrown out. Um, but the people that I feel sorry for the most is the fans, like, because Southampton, they're thinking that they're going to a playoff final. Their fans, they've probably organised transport from the south coast up, maybe accommodation, there's a lot of costs, like, to fans in going to the playoff final. And like, they don't even know if, like, they're actually going to be there. Are they going to get thrown out, or is Middlesbrough going to take their spot? And like, the Middlesbrough fans then need to organize things like transport and accommodation and match tickets and things like that. So it's it's a really, really bad look on the championship. Like, it's we're not talking about the football here. Like, we're talking about something else, and it just shows with the money that's involved. And like, everyone wants to get to the Premier League so bad because of, like, the incentives, like the money it brings, the lengths that clubs are going to try and gain even like the smallest advantage is just incredible. Moving along then to the Scottish Premier League, where the final day is approaching in this one. I'd done a video there going back a few weeks ago on, the title race in Scotland was kind of heating up. At the time, it was Rangers, Celtic and Hearts were in the mix. Rangers have since fell off, and it looked like Celtic were falling off up until the penultimate game the other night, when they got a last gasp penalty against Motherwell, a very controversial penalty where with the Motherwell player going up and heading the ball, but his arm coming in front of his forehead when he's about to head it. And some people are saying, like, he didn't handle the ball. Some people are saying it's a definite handball. To be honest, like, from the angles that I saw of the incident, I thought it was very hard to tell if it did hit his hand. Like, the angle that I saw, it was like, the ball is coming towards your man's head, and like I'm touching the ball now with my hand, but can you see me touch the ball with my hand? Really, you can't, just because of that angle. But like, since other angles have come out and they kind of show that, like, it did hit his hand. But like, this is again what I don't understand, is how come these angles come out afterwards when the match is done? Like, surely these angles should be available at the time. But again, it was such a controversial decision because, like, the Celtic player who's going up for the header with the Motherwell player, he's underneath him, so he's basically keeping his elbow elevated when he's going up for the header. Now, his hand does come across his head. Like, I don't know. I think it's a harsh decision because, like, the Celtic player is basically, like, forcing his hand up, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't know. Like, he can't. Like, I'm not saying you can head the ball, like, with your hand, but like, if his hand isn't here, he's going to head the ball anyway. And I've always been of, like, the opinion with handballs that, like, if the ball is going to hit your body anyway, it shouldn't be a penalty. So like, if I have my hand here and, like, the ball is, like, if I have my hand here and the ball is, like, hits my hand, like, I don't think that's a penalty, because, like, if my hand isn't there, it's just going to hit me in the chest anyway. Like, if you get what I'm saying, I'm not really denying anything, like, if you get what I'm saying. But I don't know. It's such a tough one. I've seen it like 20 times, and I'm still like unsure. Like, but it's definitely, it's kept Celtic. That decision has kept Celtic in the title race. It was looking like the final day. Like Hearts are playing Celtic on the final day, and it was looking like Hearts would only need to avoid a 3-goal loss to be crowned champions. Now, like, they require a draw at least to win it, and they're up against it. Like, they're going to be facing like 60,000 Celtic fans at Celtic Park. With Celtic knowing that if they win, like, they have the league. It's definitely like they're definitely up against it, and like I think there's a bit of controversy as well around the split and the fact that Hearts aren't at home on the final day of the season. I think there's a lot of like logistical issues where they couldn't put Hearts on the final day at home. But I don't know. Like I was speaking to my Celtic friend, and he was saying that it's a generally like accepted kind of not rule, but it's a thing where the final home game of the season is usually given to the team that is first when the split was made, which should be Hearts. So yeah, I'd say Hearts can kind of feel a bit hard done by in that sense too. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be a feisty one. There on at the weekend when they face each other, at Celtic Park. That's going to be a crazy, crazy end to the SPL season. Last but not least, then I'm just going to touch briefly on the Bundesliga. It's heating up there down the bottom. For people that don't know, with the relegation in the Bundesliga, the bottom two teams are automatically relegated, while the team that finishes third from bottom goes into basically a relegation promotion playoff with the team that finishes third in the division below. So, like, all three teams at the moment are on 26 points, and they're only separated by 3 goal difference, with two of the teams on the exact same goal difference. So it's a very interesting one at the weekend, because two of the teams actually play each other. With I think the pronunciation is Zank Pauli. They're at home to Wolfsburg, and then Heidenheim play as well at the same time. It would be kind of mad to see Wolfsburg go down. So yeah, guys, let me know in the comments, like, who's going to win the FA Cup final. Will West Ham get a crucial victory against Newcastle and set up a final day relegation scrap? The battle for sixth, will it be over, or is it only getting started? The SPL title race, Hearts, Celtic, who have you got? And just anything else in the video that I covered, involving Spygate and the Bundesliga. If you've got any opinions on that, I'd love to know them. But yeah, guys, hope everything is all good, and I'll chat to you next time. Thanks for watching Let's Chat Football.